Welcome, everybody, to Spirituality Adventures. This is a non-judgmental place to explore spirituality, and we're so glad you're here. This is a viewer and listener-supported podcast, so we greatly appreciate your support. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, share, and subscribe to any of the social media content platforms that you're using. And then if you go to our website, spiritualityadventures.com, you can make a one-time donation, or with a monthly subscription, you'll gain access to our bonus content. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome, everybody, to Spirituality Adventures. We're glad you're here. We are excited to interview Dakota Hylton today. And Dakota's a new acquaintance, and my producer, Matt Cox, told me about Dakota's story, and I was fascinating to hear about a young man who's encountered some difficulty and problems along the way, but then has had a great turnaround story and is now doing personal training, boxing, a lot of different things. But we're here to hear about this kind of inspiring turnaround story. Dakota, thanks for being with us.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me. I just really appreciate it.
I always like to start by just getting into a little bit of your background story, kind of where you were born, where'd you grow up, what was your family like, maybe, and were you raised in any kind of a faith tradition, anything like that, or like any kind of spiritual path at all?
So when we grew up, we did go to church, like with our grandparents and stuff would go, and our mom would go and stuff. But it wasn't, at first, I mean, it was like an every weekend thing, but that was until, I mean, I was probably like 8 or 9, and then it kind of slowly, dwindled down a little bit because we moved away from our grandparents, and it ended up being like a 30-minute drive there. But as far as like family goes, I had a single mom. My dad, wasn't around. Then my mom just kind of always, never got with good guys. So that it wasn't like they were all bad necessarily to us at the beginning, but just they were lazy. And so that's kind of what helped me a lot, was I seen her with lazy guys. So I always kind of grew up, not having a ton, where I remember situations I had to and it's nothing against my mom, but I had to cut grass. I'd go and cut grass, or we would work at the carnival during the summer sometimes, and that's what, how I would buy Nike shoes and stuff when if I had fancy stuff. A lot of times I was paying for it, so that kind of instilled a lot in me though. And we kind of, like I said, we moved a lot though.
Where were you born?
So I was born in Kansas City, and we grew up kind of actually in Liberty for a couple of years, and then we went to Odessa, Missouri. I started school out there, and from kindergarten to second grade. Then we moved to Hylton, and then we were there for 6 years.
Where's Hylton?
That's down by Warrensburg, Missouri.
Okay.
And that's really where I learned a lot, because I went. That's where I really got my work ethic, because in third grade, I remember I'd get a walk. It was a small town, 500 people, so my mom didn't really care a whole lot if we were walking around. You didn't have to worry about a whole lot. So I was walking around one day after school, and the baseball kids were practicing in high school, and the coach happened to be my PE teacher, and he sees me walking around. He's like, "Why are you walking around here?" And so I'm like, "Oh, well, I'm just bored. I live here in town." And so he told me I could watch them practice or whatever, and it became a thing where he let me start coming to their practice, and I was going to be their bat boy. And so that became a thing where I really learned to train hard, because it became where he'd let me warm up with them, because I was playing baseball and stuff. And so that's how I ended up actually getting good at sports, was because I put myself in a position to be every day in third grade after school, instead of going home to try to hang out with my friends, I'd be at baseball practice with high schoolers. And it eventually, sometimes they would let me hit and stuff, so I learned a lot doing stuff like that. And then from there, I was there until 8th grade, and I was kind of always more of a star, I guess, on the teams, is me and my friend Caleb. were normally the two of the main ones. Like when it came to basketball, baseball, we were always, competitive. And he actually only played baseball 1 year, and I remember the year he played because I was like one of the main pitchers, and he came in. He's like, "I'm going to be a pitcher," and like I remember just like being like, "No, you're not, dude. Don't." And then he ended up being like really good. So it was like this whole battle, and it's with your best friend. So like that's also what made me good was having him around because, we were kind of really alike, and we lost contact for a lot of years, but he's still my best friend now to this day. I still talk to him like several times a week, and but it was having that competitiveness even with him in basketball. I remember so many times where we would be going down to the basketball courts after school, or there's a couple times we'd go like get dropped off at the community center and we'd be there for like 5 hours playing basketball, and so that, and then eventually also with the water boy thing. Once I got into middle school and we were playing basketball heavy, I was playing on like 3 teams at one point. Never on like traveling teams because we couldn't afford that, but I'd get like on the rec league teams, and I was good. So when you play on these rec league teams, like I'm almost like a star because like literally it was weird because some kids would like, I had a kid almost look at me like I was like God because like some of these kids weren't very good, and like you come in there and like you can actually like shoot and stuff. It was cool. It made you feel good. But then when you get put in those situations against those traveling, kids, now you're that average player. And so that's where things, because 8th grade year, we had a whole thing happen with our uncle and our mom's ex. My mom's like leaving her ex, and we did this thing where we'd work at the carnival during the summers, but they were staying down there working, and we were like living at our house because our grandma lived there and our uncle was living there at the time. Well, my uncle like went and picked up my mom's boyfriend from like Mississippi, and literally came back, and they get back, and my mom ends up coming back too because there's like a whole fight going on behind the scenes that I don't even know about, because I'm in 8th grade and they just, I guess, didn't want to tell us about it. And so my mom shows up in the middle of the night and like wakes us up. It's like, okay, we gotta like leave, and we're like, why? And then it's like, whatever. So we just leave. We go stay in a hotel, and the next day we show up at our house. And mind you, this is in the middle of the school year, 8 weeks until I'm out of 8th grade. And we go to a hotel that night. We show up to our house the next day, and our house was padlocked because technically my mom's boyfriend had the house was in his name, but he never really ever worked. And my mom literally paid for everything. Besides when we worked at the carnival, and even then that wasn't. It's not like they were getting rich doing that. It was more of a waste of time on that, and from there things kind of just went downhill because we got locked out. So literally from there we're just my mom's like, well, let's just go and basically live on the road. And so we literally packed my mom had a Tahoe, and we literally packed everything we could because they let us, we got called the cops, whatever, and they were like, you need to let them in the house to at least get their stuff. And so my mom's like, okay, we're going to get our stuff, and we're literally leaving because also I guess at this time she had been talking to a guy down at the carnival that had owned some carnival stuff or whatever, and that's a whole nother thing. But she was trying to do better for her. There was issues with that, so. But that's a whole other thing. And so we literally packed this car full. It's me, my 2 brothers, one of my brother's girlfriends, and then my mom. And so it's 5 people in like a car that holds 8. And we also had one of our dogs. And we literally packed the car full just of everything that we could fit in there. So there's a lot of our stuff that literally just got left. And what had happened was like our uncle and my mom's boyfriend literally went and ended up selling all that stuff, and we went down to Mississippi and we're living on the road. And then it just kind of just got really weird because we were working at a carnival and I was like 14, and that's when I really started smoking weed and stuff too. Because my brother, one night, he's just like, I didn't know he even smoked, and I found out, and it became a thing where. Is
he older?
Yeah, he's 3 years older than me.
Yeah.
And he He's like,
so you guys are kind of a family on the road.
Yeah.
Working at carnivals.
Yeah, so the guy had owned some carnival games, and so that was what we ended up going down there to do, which we'd already had been doing that during the summer.
A little bit, yeah.
Which, again, that's also, I mean, I could go way more into that whole story, so I'm kind of skimming over it to get to the main parts.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I learned how to actually hustle and make money. The whole carnival stuff, there's a lot it's about money, and a lot of people know that, and you've seen scams on TV and stuff. So I've seen a lot of crappy stuff done behind the scenes of that as well. But that's what taught me how to like make money, and also, I mean, there was days when I was 14, I'd make $300 in one day as a kid. Just basically getting out there and hustling, and that's what helped me like not be afraid to ask people for stuff sometimes, like. When it comes to trying to talk to people about sponsorships, because I used to be running a game where I would have to yell at random people, and I'd have to try to get out and, and just not be nervous about it. And, but that was fun. And so we're living on the road though, and it becomes really hectic. There's a lot of drama behind that. My brother, I'm not gonna get too much into it, but my brother had actually invested into my mom's that guy's equipment, and there ended up being stuff that it didn't work out, and he got screwed. And so there ends up being animosity with my mom, my brother, and now me, because I also had told him to go in on this, and it ends up causing a lot of issues where my brother leaves and he comes back home and is like living with my grandma, and so now I'm down there by myself with in this, and this is where I have a lot of insecurities start coming from, because my mom's boyfriend, I always wanted a dad. And so, when we meet this guy, there's a lot of stuff going on. You find out he tried saying he had cancer and stuff, but then things would get weird and he would never actually go to appointments and stuff. So like there's a whole like mental, like, an emotional, abuse that like is just going on, like this whole thing, because he's literally like you start thinking this guy's gonna die, and then you're also like starting to really like him, but then he starts doing all this crappy stuff, and so there's a lot going on. And then one of the turning points for me was we actually went fishing, and we went back to the hotel room, and like I didn't even do anything. I think I was saying something about asking him a question about the fish or whatever, because we're living in a hotel room at this point too, and about to flay these catfish in a hotel room. And he said something, and he started yelling at me, and then he like tried to, and he like smacked me. And like I was never like a violent kid or whatever. I was raised by a single mom, not to fight and stuff. So I ended up like smacking me. And we get into this whole argument, and like I remember like I grabbed a knife. I was like, I'll stab you, because I was just like so over it, because there was also like just so much stuff I saw with mental abuse going on like towards my mom, with him and stuff. And it finally got to that point where I was just like, I'm done. And like I was calling my brother, like, dude, can you please just come back? Like I don't want to be out here. So I ended up convincing my brother to actually come back, and we actually finally get in the house. So this is only like a 6-7 month period. So we're living on the road in hotels, campers. At one point, when my brother was there the first time, we were living in a van. And I remember one time, like, it got so cold in this van that me and my brother were living in, and we didn't have a heater to plug in, that there was dew coming off of the ceiling, and it was like 30 degrees. And we had to like walk like a mile to go down to a Dollar General to try to get like covers. And it still didn't work. It was still freezing. So there's a lot of like, just bad times that it went on, but it made us stronger. And so my brother comes down, and that's when I start my freshman year of high school. I started actually in Genoa, Arkansas. So that was a whole weird experience going.
So from ninth grade in Arkansas till did you go all the way through high school?
So I stayed, actually, I was only there from the start of the year until Thanksgiving. And then that's where we finally have this blowout with my mom's boyfriend and my mom, and we're like, me and my brother's like, hey, we're going back to Missouri. We don't want to be here. You can come with us. If not, you could stay with him, or we're gonna go live with grandma because we're done with it. And that's something that's really actually hard to talk about. A lot of people don't know that whole story, so this is really the first time that any of my friends that here, they might really don't know about a lot of this, and that's something I've talked to my mom, about.
Yeah,
that was hard to do, and because my mom, she chose to stay down there, and we come back, and it caused a lot of problems. So like I started going to Oak Grove High School, and this time too, also from 8th grade until that, I had started when we were on the road. My mom's boyfriend would take us to buffets like every day. So I was eating buffets sometimes twice a day, 5-6 days a week. It got to a point where if I didn't get a buffet, I was actually mad. Like if you just took me to a Church's Chicken, I was getting kind of mad. So like I had started gaining a bunch of weight, and wasn't being active, and I was living in a bad situation. So when I get up here, I'm 260, 270 pounds, and
as a 9th grader.
Yeah, as a 9th grader. Yeah. So it was.
So you're sporting. You were so active with sports, but then this kind of like a traumatic episode.
Yeah, and I was always big, but I was athletic.
Yeah.
So and that was the hard part, because when I went, to Arkansas, I did play football there, and I was never, a violent person though, so I wasn't very good. But then, and that was
So those who aren't watching us and just listening, I'm looking at Dakota now. He's a fit, like, what are you, 6'1", 6'2"?
Yep, exactly.
6'1",
Yeah, right.
Probably 190.
Exactly. Yeah,
I nailed it. All right, and look super fit, right? So you're talking about as a 9th grader, you're eating buffets and bumping up to 260.
Yeah. 260, 270, and that's where, and even playing the football, like I was just kind of going through the motions, because again, I wasn't a star player like I was used to being, and that led to me, stopping sports in general, even when I came to Oak Grove, because I'm at 270, and I'm going against kids that are dunking. I couldn't even touch rim. I couldn't even touch backboard before. I was just going off if I was able to shoot, I was able to move, and I could still keep up with, the better players. And then it's at that point where it's like, I don't even want to try. Like, there's no point. I'm not a bench. I always had in my head, I'm not going to be the guy that's going to sit on the bench. I know, like, everyone has to know their role, and it takes a team to be successful, but I'm not someone that's going to sit on the bench. I'll go find something that I could be the main role guy. And that's when I started trying to rap and stuff, was because I was like, okay, I didn't make the baseball team. And that was I remember, I tried out for the baseball team, and they had us run laps around this gym, and I literally was getting lapped like 3 or 4 times by some of these kids. And baseball was my best sport. You know what I'm saying? I was able to, in 3rd, 4th grade, I was throwing 65, 70 miles an hour, have curveballs. I had a crazy good curveball. I literally would have coaches tell me that all the time. I could have played traveling baseball when I was a kid. We just didn't have the money to do it. So going into that, freshman year, literally not making the baseball team it was very upsetting. I remember crying after that, and I actually just ran into that coach a couple weeks ago and told him about that, because without that happening, even like today, I still use stuff like that. Not wanting to feel, I don't like feeling like a loser, and that was one that. Even thinking about it, I get emotional about it, because, I wish I would have played high school baseball, and, that's something you can't go back on. But,
right. So you got into rap.
Yeah, so I get into rap.
What year was this?
So I'd actually been getting into rap when I was living in Leeton in 8th grade. And but this is, so what, 20, so it would have been 15, 2016 probably, 2015. And I started doing battle rap. I was 15, and my first battle rap was at 7th Heaven down on Troost. And I remember I That's the spot. If you're from Kansas City, you know that
we know
place.
Seventh Heaven is. It's a accessory store. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, well, but the CDs though, back in the day, the heydays of like the local rap scene, they literally downstairs they sold nothing but local rap scene. They had this whole section.
Yeah, I've been there many times through the years. Yeah,
that was the place to go. I remember just as a kid walking in there though and seeing all the local rap CDs because I was just so intrigued by that because actually, like we talked about before with Dutch Newman. And that's kind of how I, found out about Matt. I was 12 messaging Dutch Newman, like just outlandish, crazy stuff. And he would actually...
By the way, we interviewed Tanner Folk just a couple of weeks ago, who's a country artist, but he knows Dutch. I interviewed Dutch several months ago, and he has a great story because he's been in sobriety now for quite a while, but he about killed himself, just with the drugs and crap. But anyway, so you started at 12, started emailing or texting or whatever, reaching out to Dutch.
Yeah, I was reaching out to Dutch and he actually told me a couple times that was one of the reasons he actually kept rapping though, was because there's a lot of times he said he was going to quit or whatever, but he would ignore me 3 or 4 times, but I'd still send him that hey again, and eventually he would respond back. It's not a very healthy thing to do, but I was young and I didn't really understand all that, and but so then I started doing the battle rap stuff though off of that because I find out because he did that Sean Malta song. I couldn't skateboard, but I wanted to be a pro skateboarder, so I was like, I can hang around skateboarders and not have to actually skateboard. So I was like, I'll just do the rap thing. Then people know who I am. So I started trying to do that. And the first rap battle we had at Seventh Heaven, I choked. I think I got through half of my first round and it was not good at all. I did have one really good line and, it was just a cool experience though. And I was 15, so they didn't expect me to really do anything. And, then I kind of stuck with that for a little bit until I finally ended up having a good 1 or 2 solid performances. And at the time I didn't really understand it. I was so young, and then I started trying to chase girls, and I wouldn't prepare for stuff like I needed to because I was always trying to just spend time with my girlfriend and stuff at the time. But that was a big part of me opening up, and it was hard because I remember the first rap battle. Actually, my mom was still out of town, so literally my brother drove me up there, and I was 15, so he's 17, and he just or he's 18, so he drove me up there, and I'm having to do this rap battle though, just in front of 100 people. And Seventh Heaven, to me, growing up, I was always told Troost was the hood. So I'm kind of terrified being there by myself because I'm 15. So because my grandma and stuff always
white 15-year-old kid.
Yeah. They're always like, you're gonna get yourself shot going down there. And,
that's what everybody says.
Yeah, and then you go down there and you realize it's not really like that. If you go to certain places, and you're being dumb, yeah. But I was always got a lot of respect just because I was so young going and doing it. And
so I'm curious, when you say battle rap, just for folks who might maybe not know what that is. Can you think of a popular movie scene that would have been a good depiction of battle rap? Is there any movie that maybe people have seen that has a clip that would be representative of what you're talking about?
So the most commonly people really think of 8 Mile. But that wasn't actually the type of battle rap I did. That was Eminem did freestyle battle rap. So there's actually a movie you could look up. It's called Bodied, and Eminem actually produced it. That's the type of battle rap that I was into. So they didn't have beats playing, and it's all pre-written stuff. And it's more about the bars and trying to actually. You have to trying to find sometimes double meanings and how you can. I could be trying to say saying one thing, but I'm also saying another thing at the same time. And that's what started to really intrigue me with the battle rap, was because you got to be really smart and. So 8 Mile maybe
touches on, but isn't what you were doing.
Yeah.
And he did a different one called Bodied.
Yes.
Bodied.
Yeah.
Bodied.
Yep. And that has a lot of.
I haven't seen that one.
It wasn't like very popular because that type of battle rap isn't. I mean, it's blown up. I mean, if you look it up, King of the Dot, KOTD, is the biggest league in the world right now. And actually, A Ward, he's from Kansas City. He's one of the biggest battle rappers right now.
Okay.
So it's worth checking out.
So you got to know some. Give us some of the. 'Cause you were just mentioning about the jelly roll thing. Some of my fans may be more country fans than rap fans, and if they watched CMT just a few weeks ago, Jelly Roll killed it. Right, he won all these awards. But he has Kansas City connections, and even was he on Strange? Did he work with Tech Nine at one time?
So he never was with Strange, but I'm pretty sure they did some type of merch deal or something because they were selling his CD for a while at one point. So I think they did something for a while.
Okay.
I don't know all that, but I do know because my friend actually booked his shows when he was in Kansas City. Like when he was at the Riot Room when he did those shows. Or
who's your friend?
John Price.
Okay.
For Priceless Entertainment.
Okay.
But so how I got actually involved in all that was so I wanted to start making music, and I was never really that good. So, but I would go to these local. Me and my brother would go to shows and tour stops. So I remember the big one, when Hobson came to town, they would go to Wichita, they would come to Lawrence, and they'd go to St. Louis or however it was. And what we would do is we would buy tickets to all 3 days, and we would go to all three of them. And then we were into local rap or underground rap, so it also became a thing where we'd go to some of these shows where they're at little bars. Mm-hmm. And then so I remember going to a show one time. I finally got put on a show. And I was going to Columbia to it's Rose Music Hall. It's a little bar out there. They also own the Blue Note. But we were going out there, and literally this guy, he was from out of town. He wasn't very big, didn't really sell any tickets. And I had brought 5 people or whatever with me, and so they still let us perform or whatever, and it was fun. But on the way back, I was just thinking, I was like, okay, there were still 10 people there that obviously paid for the tickets, and he didn't bring anybody. I was like, there has to be a way for me to do that where I could bring somebody that has a name and then put me as the co-headliner. And then even if I'm not very good, it doesn't matter because people, my name's right there regardless. And so I kind of had that thought in my head, and this is me at 16. Mm-hmm. So I ended up, a guy named Cryptic Wisdom came to town, and his show only had 50 people there. And so I literally had told him, I was like, I think we could do more than that. Actually, it was probably only 20 people. I was like, I could do better than that. And I'm 16. And so a couple of months later, I seen they're looking for, to go on tour. So I emailed the manager. I got it set up, got it for the right price. I'm 16, and I didn't even know how I was going to do this. So I literally just start calling venues, every place in Kansas City, in Independence, just everywhere. Literally nobody's open, either won't let me do it or just not going to work. It's too much money. And then somehow I actually landed it was one of my brother's friends, which actually is now he's my brother or my stepbrother. But he ended up telling me about this bar in Warrensburg called The Bay. And so I called them, and the owner was like, yeah, we'll let you do it. So we go down, we end up setting up the show, and next thing you know, we had 70 people there. And so this was the biggest show that Cryptic Wisdom had really done in the area at the time. And so I just it felt so cool because the bar also, they weren't used to having, I think it was a Wednesday night or something. They weren't used to having 70 people there on a Wednesday night. So they literally told me you can do whatever you want here. Any day you want
to bring the crowd.
You just let us know and we'll give it to you. Uh-huh. And so I started trying to book a bunch of shows from there, and that's what led into the thing where I told that story about Haystack. That was actually, I started doing a thing where I knew promoters in Kansas City, Topeka, and I was in Warrensburg. So I'm always thinking, like, how can I get the best deal? So I would hit up these guys, and I'd be like, hey, I want to bring so-and-so. Let's, can you guys one of us do a Thursday, one of you Friday, Saturday. You guys pay this much, I pay this much. We'll get them for a better deal than if I just book them and then you book them separate. We'll just work it in a 3-show deal. And so that's what I started doing, was trying to do like 3-show, 4-show deals with other promoters, because now we're getting better deals. And now also, mine's normally the first show. I would be like, I'll take the Thursday. And the reason I do that is because some of these guys, I would be their driver all weekend. So like there was a couple of guys, like Twisted Insane was a big one, which a lot of people probably don't know who he is, but I was a huge fan of him. I got to drive him around all weekend, and I got to go out to eat with them and just do all this crazy stuff. So I'm 16, literally like hanging out with people that are my idols. And it's that led into the Jelly Roll thing, because the manager of Haystack was actually Jelly Roll's manager at the time. And there had been a bunch of bad business stuff going on between them. I didn't know about all that. You don't know or whatever, but so I never got contracts for the Haystack show, because I knew people that had worked with them up in Indiana, and that's how I got the contact. And I never had an issue with the Haystack show. I was like, okay, let's bring Jelly Roll. And so we're bringing them, and literally everything's set up to be perfect. It'll be a good night. Tickets weren't selling like I was hoping, but I was like, I don't care. Jelly Roll was my favorite person at the time. And this is like right when the song Smoking Section came out. And so my friend actually, we weren't really friends at the time. This is how I became friends with him. He had him booked at the Riot Room. And I was working at a barbecue place I mentioned earlier, Casey Bay Back Ribs. I hit up the manager, and I was like, hey, I'm coming to the Kansas City show.
Where's the Riot Room at, Matt? Do you know?
It's Riot Room is it used to be in Westport, just like right now.
Okay. Remind me, Matt, like King Kie, our friend.
Mm-hmm.
I'm blanking on his name. Darrison. Did you ever run across Darrison during this time?
I don't think so.
Okay. Who did Darrison? Because he was booking acts too about this time, wasn't he?
All of his stuff is booked out in Liberty. That's the 816 room.
Oh, 816 room. Okay. No, I've interviewed Darrison on here. He goes by King Kie is his rapper name, but he knows a lot of these guys. I'm just curious if you guys cross paths.
Yeah, we might have. That's the thing. At that time, though, too.
Do you know Alex Sortiano? Alex Sartiano. He was an engineer with Strange some and does his own rap stuff too. Called I forgot. Oh, he goes with Smart Alec is what he goes by. Anyway, go ahead. Keep rolling.
That's the thing.
I just curious. So the Riot Room, Jelly Roll's coming.
Jelly Roll's there. He's coming, and I hit up the manager, and I was working at a barbecue place. I was like, hey, I can get some free barbecue. Would you guys, want this or whatever? What do you guys want? And because I was trying to build connections with these guys when they came into town, I was really trying to. I was that fangirl, and I wanted to try to become friends with these guys. And that was the thing I learned very quickly, that these guys don't want to be your friend. They're there to make money, and I get it, and I get it now, and I understand that. And that's. But so with Jelly Roll, they're like, yeah, we'll take the barbecue. So I take the barbecue up there or whatever. And actually the manager that day told me, he's like, Jelly Roll's so excited for your show, because he said that he got picked up in an Uber today, and the guy didn't even know he was going to be in Kansas City tonight, but he knew about your show in Warrensburg. So I was like, oh, that's so cool. And I'm bringing a barbecue, so I'm feeling so cool. And I ended up meeting Jelly Roll that night, and he's super cool. He's like, oh, I can't wait for your show. Well, a couple weeks go by, because my show wasn't like the next night or anything. It was like 2 weeks later. So in this time also, I had set up a deal to get features with Jelly Roll. The deal was like a hook and a verse, and or it was 2 hooks and a verse, whatever the deal was. And we'd worked it out. But the deal was that I made with the manager, they're going to get there early, and they're going to record it in front of me, because I've already heard so many deals with Jelly Roll and Haystack. What all these guys would do, they'll take that money and they won't give you the contract, and then you'll never see that money again, and you can't do nothing about it because you have no proof. It's happened so many times. And so that was the deal. They had to record him there. So he shows up to my venue, to the venue. And for one, the venue had a line outside the door. They're not used to that. So they're like, hey, we're going to open the doors. And they wanted to sound check, but they were supposed to be there at 4:00 to sound check. And the doors opened at, I think, like 6. Okay. I think the bar opened the doors at like 5:30. But the band wasn't there to sound check. So the band shows up at 6:30, and they're like, we got things going on. There's people in there. And so now they start getting pissed off at me because, like, why is people in here? I was like, I didn't have control of that. Like, the bar's like, we're going to let them in because they're like, we're losing money. Like, by these people standing. That's what the bar was thinking. And so I get why they're pissed off, but they also have to show up on time and do their part. But at the same time, there's not a contract now. So what am I going to say? It's like, so they're just pissed off. They get their stuff, set up or whatever. And then, Jelly Roll shows up. And so I walk out to the back because they tell me he's there or whatever. Or he like walks in and like it screams at me and then like leaves. And then like I go back there to talk to him basically about the show because he's pissed off. So another thing, which again, keep in mind, I'm 17. So I had a couple more acts than were supposed to be on the show. Now, this is a common thing that, especially in this time, a lot of people, what we would do is you would sell slots to try to, that's how you made the money back, and that's how I was able to do it. It's not the best way to do it, but I was able to do stuff, that way, and if I would go back, I wouldn't have done it that way, but, so I'd sell these slots or whatever, and that's how I could afford to do the shows, and so he was mad about that. I get it, or whatever, because it technically, I think I had like 2 extra or whatever. But I've also talked to my friend that had booked them probably 20 times. And he's like, yeah, they say that, but they don't care. They never give me a problem. And I was really cool with that guy. So there really should have been no issue. But again, there was no contract either. So anyway, so then I go out back to talk to Jelly Roll and he just starts screaming at me. And again, I'm 17. This is my favorite rapper. So I start crying. Like I didn't know what to do. Like I don't know. Like at that point, there's nothing I can do except for get yelled at by like literally my favorite musician in the world. And I didn't know how to handle it. And then so he's yelling at me about this and that. And he's like, well, where's my money? Give me the money. And then so I literally had like a backpack at the time. And because I was selling weed at the time, so it was full of weed and money or whatever. And I didn't have all my money on me though, because my mom had came back at this time, and she would like help me with stuff here and there whenever I asked her. And so she was holding on to money for me. So I said I got to run back in to grab some more money. And he starts freaking out. He's like, you don't got my money. And I'm like, no. I said, I got to go inside because I think I said I got to go to the door and get it, which I got to go to my mom. And he starts freaking out on me. So then I'm like, I'm going to go get it, and then I go get the money and I tell like them what's going on. And so they all come back. A couple of people came back out with me too. And, so I go to, I'm like, okay, here's the money I got or whatever. He's like, well, where's the other 1,500 or whatever? And I was like, well, what are you talking about? I was like, for the features? I said, I'm not giving you that money until you show up to do the features. Like, the deal was you guys were going to get here early to do the features. And then so he's getting pissed off about this. Like, so you don't got all my money, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't have a contract for those features. If you show up early or you're going to be in Springfield tomorrow, like, we can work that out. I'll message the manager and we could set up a studio and we'll do that. So he's mad about this feature money. And then so he's finally like, we come to an agreement. He's just going to do the show. He's basically just saying, he's saying a lot like, screw you, a bunch of stuff. And he's like, but I'm just going to do the show. So and also in this process, I didn't know how to handle the situation. So I'm freaking out in my head. I don't know what to do. And going in, there's a concrete wall and I literally just punched this wall. And so literally my whole knuckles were all like busted open and all bloody. And it was I ended up walking out the front door and then just walking across the street and sitting on these steps and kind of just like crying to myself. And not the way to handle it. It was not the way to handle it. So but I gathered myself back like 10-15 minutes. I walk back over there and get the show running. The show starts running, and next thing I know, I think I went out to smoke or something, and literally see Jelly Roll pass me in a van with his wife. And that's the thing, his wife Bunny was there too, for those that like her, and she was actually trying to like tell him like, hey, like, why don't you just calm down? And she was actually trying to like help me out a little bit, but at the same time, like, it's his wife, so she can't really, I think other people knew he was being a dick. I mean, I think this was about the time too. I think he also had a bad coke problem, so you could tell that they were probably, he was at a rough time, and also dealing with the problems with his management, because this is like Jelly Roll when he was making, I think we were paying him like $3,500 for the show. Now he's making $150,000, $200,000 per show. So this was like struggling Jelly Roll.
Yeah.
One of the comments he actually said to me was, I could be at home selling dope, making more money than being out here on the road doing these shows. That was the comment he said to me, and yeah, he ended up just leaving. They packed their stuff up and left, and he didn't perform, and he took the money, and it put me. I was 17, and I had probably 100 people there that had to figure out what. I don't have your money, I worked at McDonald's. Like, I literally worked at McDonald's, and that's how I'd pay for deposits for shows. I would do that until I could sell slots and then use the money to pay for the show. But it was a McDonald's paycheck that would help get the deposits paid, and the people would take payments on the deposits. So I didn't have money. I didn't know what to do. I literally had no money except for maybe a couple $100 and weed in my backpack. And you got people that paid $25 for tickets, and I'm literally like, I'm standing here, like, I don't know, like, I don't know what to do.
Your act is off. It's gone.
And that's where I did something even more unprofessional. I ended up giving the manager's number out to probably about 20 or 30 people right there, and they all started calling him and blowing his phone up, and so that wasn't the thing to do. I feel bad about that, because the manager actually felt really bad. The manager actually, because I did have to send I sent him like an $800 deposit or something. The manager did actually end up sending me that money back. So he was, but again, I also gave him over $3,000 and got 800 of it back or whatever. And I still had a lot of cost, for that day.
So take us to where you had a turnaround in your life. So at this point, you're still running 260 pounds. You're rapping, but then you're trying to get into the promotion world of rap here locally. But somewhere along the lines, you do a change. Get us to the change, because we've got a little bit more time here. But I want to hear.
Yeah.
Get us to where you're at now. Tell us your meltdown, and then how'd you get out of that whole thing?
So going from there, it was pretty quick. That actually was the big breakdown from, I stopped doing rap stuff after that all happened. And I ended up getting with a girl a couple months later, or a year later, and we moved, and we were living in the middle of nowhere, Carrollton, Missouri. I was with her for 3 years. So I went from doing all this, being in front of people all the time, to literally working at a factory, and just literally trying to spend all my time with her. And when I first got with her, I'd try to go to the gym and stuff, and I'd try to get her to go, and she would never want to go. And so it became a thing where now we're working different schedules. So when I do have time off, I'm trying to spend time with her. I'm not trying to go to the gym. And so I ended up at one point getting up to about 310 pounds. And so it was just a whole thing.
How long ago was this?
And that was 2.5 years ago.
Wow.
So
okay.
I got to 310 pounds, and it was just because I was constantly just eating. I wouldn't work out. And then when I did try to go work out, it just wasn't fun. But I could still go and play basketball every once in a while, and I was still pretty good, but it's just, there's just not much you could do. You couldn't last long. It wasn't a fun place. And then leading into that, my ex ended up leaving me probably a year after that. And when she left me, we were buying a house, and we had a truck together and stuff, but at the end of the day, everything went in my name, because it was just I had the credit for some of the stuff at the time or whatever, and we just didn't put our name on it yet because it wasn't paid off. And so I had to figure out what to do with all this stuff because I couldn't afford it. I'm living in the middle of nowhere, and I don't want to go work at a factory because I also had a race car at the time, and I was trying to do stuff with that. So I ended up getting rid of the house and kind of just, we were doing a rent to own on the house, luckily, and I just kind of told them, like, they told me I could try to sell it, but I was in a really bad spot, and I was just like, hey, you guys just take the house. I don't care about all the money I put into it, and it needed a lot of work, and there's a lot of issues, and so I was like, I'm just gonna go live with my brother, and so that's what I did, and I ended up actually selling the truck to my mom, and I got me a new car and put myself in even more debt, because if you don't have good credit, it really screws you. So I'm paying like 20% interest on an '05 Mazda, so that put me in that position though, and now I have a car, so I'm able to drive around a little more, and I'm living in the city. So I started being a server, and from there, that led me into I always wanted to try stand-up comedy. So I ended up going to an open mic at the Comedy Club of Kansas City to try stand-up comedy, and I did that. And the first time I did it, it was so fun. So I was like, it became a thing. I met some people there. We literally started going to open mics 4 or 5 nights a week. And I did that for about 3-4 months. And about 2 months into it, though, I had seen the owner of the comedy club at an open mic, and I was serving at the time, and they had a thing that said they needed servers. And someone had said to him, like, hey, this kid wants a job serving. You should hire him. So I ended up getting a job at the comedy club. And the reason was actually because the owner knew me because I'd went up the week before. I had taken 6 grams of mushrooms, and I went up and performed, and like I was just I was out of it, and he knew like I was extremely messed up, and so he knew me from that, and so that's actually what got me the job. Was I went on stage on mushrooms. And so but at that point in my life though, I went through that breakup, so I started drinking, and what really led to that was the first time I went out after my like ex left me. I actually went home with probably the hottest girl I'd ever been with. Nothing happened, but I was so like, when that happens and you're like, oh wow, I've been with her and this girl, like, let me go home with her. It's like, okay. But I was in like a really, really bad spot. So that started leading me going to the bars every night too, and then with the comedy. So I'm trying to always drink, and it got to a point, like I said, I was drinking 4 or 5 nights a week, and then that got to a point where I started doing mushrooms all the time, and then I eventually, at one point, what led to everything was I was down in Westport for a friend's birthday, and we got extremely drunk, and then we were going to leave, and my friend bought a gram of Coke from someone, and we went back to his house, and then we both did the Coke, and we didn't go to sleep until like 4, 5, 6 in the morning, and I slept like 2 hours. We get up, I have to go home because we're going to a Tech Nine concert that night, and I'm like, I'm gonna get a nap. Well, this is like at the height kind of you still had COVID tests to go places, so I didn't get any sleep at the end of the day, and we took some mushrooms, and I went to the Tech Nine show, and I ended up having a bad trip, and I literally had thought I messed my head up for like weeks, because after that I was like, I'm done with this. I'm done with drinking. I'm done doing this. Because for weeks I'd try to go to the gym, and I'd be like trying to play basketball, but I'd like literally think I'm having like a heart attack. And I remember calling my mom and telling her, like, I think I need to go to the hospital. Like I think I'm having a heart attack or something. And I did that several times. And when I really knew that things were kind of going south, I remember one time I took mushrooms and I was on the way home, and I called my mom. I just broke down like crying, like, and nothing was wrong, but I just called her and I was crying, and I couldn't say anything. I was just crying, and that's when I knew there was things that there was other issues to resolve. And so after that night, I started trying to go to the gym, and then eventually that feeling went away, and I started going to the gym. It was December like 6th of 2022 or 2021. Then 2022, the first week of January, I started going to the boxing gym, and I'm a very obsessive person. So once I got in the boxing gym, it was over, because I literally the first day I go to the gym and I tell them, I literally.
Is this Bricks? Is this where you went? Okay.
Yeah, Bricks. And this was at the other
North
location.
Kansas City.
Yep. I walked in and the first thing I said is I was like, yeah, I'd like to try to take a fight just to say that I did, because I just wanted to prove to myself that, because after the whole Jelly Roll thing, I didn't feel like a man, you know what I'm saying? And then stuff growing like with my mom's ex, I never felt like a man. So like I felt like this was a way for me to try to lose weight and try to like show that I'm a man. And so that was what started. I started going to the gym, and the first day I told him I want to try to take a fight. And then again, I'm still 290 pounds when I walked into the gym that day. And, he hears that all the time. Everybody says they want to do that or whatever. They're going to do this and that. Well, the other thing I said to him was like, I want to be the best boxer in this gym. And, I started showing up 6 days a week. There was weeks I was there seven days a week. And also I was going to the gym in the morning for an hour. Then I was at the boxing gym in the evening for like an hour. And then it went from being in the gym in the morning for an hour to being in the evening. I was at the boxing gym 2 hours, and now I went from being a guy that's barely moving to the guy that's able to dictate, I feel like, when you get hit. So it wasn't like an easy process. It took a lot of, 3 to 5 hour days of working out.
So how much weight have you lost?
So
this is like you're talking in the last year and a half, basically, right?
Yeah. So just in the last year and a half, it's right at 100 pounds. And I mean, you also got to take into consideration I put on a lot of muscle, I feel like, in that time. So I feel like really I've probably even lost more, and I still have a lot of excess skin, I feel, on me that I feel like does account for more weight. Yeah.
So you kind of hit a bottom of sorts, right?
Yeah.
Would you say?
Yeah, it was definitely rock bottom. I didn't want to.
I mean, your rapping career and trying to get into that whole world kind of has exploded. Your relationship with your girlfriend's exploded. You're still heavy. You're still eating. You're still doing the drug scene.
Oh, and one more thing I didn't throw in there, because I mentioned the race car. I had borrowed money to get a race car, because I had a bunch of stuff. I'm not gonna get on to that and take time, but borrowed money to get a race car. Spent $9,000 on the race car. This is right at the time, 2-3 weeks before my ex leaves me. I ended up racing it. We were doing good. 5 weeks in, we ended up totaling the car, and I ended up losing like $6,000. So that's also all happened in that time. So now I was
in debt.
In debt over a race car.
Okay.
So
and then you don't go to a 12-step program. You don't end up in AA. You go to a boxing gym.
Yeah.
And so this boxing gym kind of becomes your salvation of sorts. Is that right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about this because it's interesting. AA's been one of the most popular things to help people get sober, right? The 12-step program and all that. But there's about 10% of the population who gets sober, some other means. Of all the people that kind of straighten their life out from, let's just say, from excessive drug and alcohol use or whatever. A lot of people need help. They need something. They can't do it on their own lots of times. Every now and then you get people that just have enough willpower. They just make a decision and bam, they do it on their own. But usually it takes a group or something. And so I think a positive, like you might call it a positive addiction, right? Mm-hmm. Like you go to a boxing gym, you start training, you discipline yourself, you get in shape. I mean, you're dropping weight, you're gaining muscle, you got this. You start getting a sense of accomplishment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's been the confidence you get out of that.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing now still is like, I still have this irrational fear that I'm going to be fat again, or that I am. I still think I'm fat a lot of times. So it's like, that's the biggest thing to really overcome too. Because even just talking to women, like I've noticed a difference because before I was just self-conscious about everything, where now it's like, I got some veins popping in my forearms. I think I'm good. So I could be a little more confident when I'm talking to people. And that's one thing that a lot of people have told me that they notice a lot. So,
yeah.
And that's what's going to end up leading me to where I want, is the confidence.
Yeah, that's cool. So you've actually done a few fights now. You're doing some training, that kind of thing. Give us a little insight into that world.
Yeah, so I started working at the boxing gym. Just had a chance, because I needed a trainer, so I'd fill in for classes, and then I do the personal training now too. That was kind of just, I actually had a pretty famous comedian. When I was working at the comedy club, he came in and he had said about how he went to a boxing gym, and so I was like, oh, well, I go here, and I was like, you should come check it out. So he ended up coming checking out and letting me train him, and he actually paid me to do it. And this was before I was even thought about really doing the personal training. And I was like, this guy technically just paid $100 to have me train him for an hour, because he paid for an Uber over, he bought me lunch, and he gave me $20. So I was like, he says he thinks it was well worth it. So I was like, if he thinks that was worth it, and there's no reason other people won't pay me $35 an hour. So that's what got me doing that, because I was trying to go to college, and I was like, this isn't for me. I want to do the boxing thing. So I'm putting everything I got towards that. And if it doesn't work out, then I'll just cross that bridge when I get to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. So, if people go to your website, do you have a website or a TikTok, or do you have any social media presence? Do you have a before and after picture? Do you have any kind of, how can people connect with you? If they want to see your story a little bit, see what's going on.
So you could just add me on Facebook, Dakota Hylton. I need to actually make,
It's Hylton.
Yeah, Hylton. And it'll be a picture of me with my coach. And same with the TikTok. It's under Dakota Hylton. I do some stuff on YouTube as well, and that's what I've been talking to Matt about, because I'm going to get into trying to do some podcast stuff, or I do want to do more vlog stuff, and that's what I started doing on YouTube. It's Hylton Athletics, AAHA. I'm trying to start releasing more. I just want to be more of a positive influence. So, because I've gotten that a lot from people that they've started working out or whatever because they see me lose weight. So that's more of what I'm getting behind. And then also with the boxing, I've been put in a position where I'm not just running the fitness classes, I'll be running the competitive classes, and you have these kids legitimately looking at you, I guess, for guidance, or they sometimes, I don't know, I remember being a kid, like I said, when I was a bat boy for the high school team, I looked at those kids like they were something else, because I was watching them do what I wanted to do. And so I can see that when the kids come up to me and ask for help on certain stuff. So I really enjoy that part of it as well, and that's not something I really thought. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
That's cool.
Just helping people.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because even if you people who get into the 12-step program, there's you have to work the program, and you do it with other people. And I think sports for me has been a positive thing in my life. So I still do cycling. I'm on a cycling team. I've crashed a couple of times here in the last 2 years and torn myself up really good. So I'm not in my best shape right now, but I've got guys that I ride with, and we continue to sports, the endorphins from sports, being fit, that whole world is a big part of my own mental health, and so, and then you're giving back, you're helping mentor people, and you're being a positive role model. That's good stuff. Yeah. So how do they find you? We're out of time, but how do they find you? Go to Facebook?
Yeah, if you just go to Facebook and look up Dakota Hylton, and it's Hylton, I should pop right up. I'll be a picture of me with my boxing gear on. And same thing with Instagram, and then YouTube, it's just Hylton Athletics, AAHA. If you just look up Hylton Athletics, it should come up.
Hylton Athletics. And you're working with people and training down at Brixton or Kansas City.
Yep.
Awesome. Awesome, man.
if you want personal training, you could just text me. So my number is 509-899-8909. So I don't care to put that out there.
All right. Good. All right. Well, everybody, thanks for tuning into Spirituality Adventures. Thank you, Dakota, for being on here with us and sharing your story. And I'm excited to see where this takes you. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Take care. We'll see you next time. This concludes today's episode. Thanks for tuning in and listening. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Remember to like, share, or subscribe to the social media platform that you're using. And then go to our website, spiritualityadventures.com, and make a one-time donation, or you can subscribe monthly and receive our special bonus content. Thanks so much.